Have you ever wondered why, despite the vast amounts of data that's fed into artificial intelligence systems, we're still grappling with technology that misinterprets our commands or fails to grasp the very nuance of our human speech? Well, in today's episode, we're going to attempt to peel back the layers of this pervasive myth in the tech world, the fallacy of scale in AI. Because joining me today is Trevor Back, Chief Product Officer at a company called Speechmatics. And they're a trailblazer in the realm of AI and machine learning, but with a rich history that spans from academia in computational astrophysics to foundational roles at DeepMind. And now steering the ship at Speechmatics, Trevor brings with him a unique perspective on why bigger isn't always better in the world of AI. And as we delve into the intricacies of speech technology, efficiency and learning, and of course that quest to understand human intent and context, well, prepare to challenge everything you thought you might have known about the future of AI. So much gold in this one. Before we get today's guest on, though, I need to give a quick shout out and a thank you to the sponsors of Tech Talks Daily this month. They are Kiteworks, and in a digital age where the landscape of remote work is ever expanding, the security and efficiency of your managed file transfer solution are paramount. This is where Kiteworks sets a new benchmark, far surpassing legacy MFT tools with its unparalleled security measures and user-centric design. They've even been awarded the prestigious FedRAMP Moderate Authorization, a recognition that is not easily obtained, and they've held it since 2017 by the Department of Defense. So what I'm trying to say here is, don't let outdated technology dictate the safety and efficiency of your business operations. Simply step into the future of secure managed file transfer with Kiteworks. And you can start your journey towards uncompromised security and unparalleled functionality today by visiting kiteworks.com. That's kiteworks.com, where you can explore the future of secure data management. But now it's time to get on with the show and invite today's guest on. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to the UK, where you can join me and Trevor Back, CPO of Speechmatics, where we'll talk about all this and lots more. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thanks, Neil. I'm Trevor Back. I'm the Chief Product Officer here at a company called Speechmatics that's based in Cambridge in the UK. I joined about 9 months ago or so, and Speechmatics is a speech recognition company whose mission is to sort of understand every voice, and we offer the most accurate speech-to-text system in the industry. My background is, I was basically obsessed with space as a kid, and so I ended up doing a PhD in computational astrophysics, and then realized that about 5 people in the world would care about what research I was doing. It's probably never applicable in the real world. And so I left academia and, unfortunately for me, got introduced to the founders at DeepMind. And so I joined DeepMind back in 2012 as their first product manager when the company was about 15 people, and sort of spent the next 9 to 10 years there working on a whole variety of different applications of machine learning to different industries, including working on DeepMind Health and AlphaFold. But then left, started up my own company, which had very unique funding, uniquely good at the beginning and uniquely bad at the end. That lasted a couple of years. And then I came and joined Speechmatics.
Wow, you've been there right from the beginning there. I mean, it's only the last couple of years that people have started to go a little bit crazy for AI. There's a lot of hype, a lot of myths and misconceptions out there. So one of the things I try and do every episode is demystify some of these complex technologies, talk about it in a language everyone can understand, and also talk about some of the areas that we don't see in our news feed. So to set the scene for our conversation today, could you start by explaining the concept of the fallacy of scale in AI and why at Speechmatics you advocate for a shift away from large data sets towards more efficient learning methods? Because it's something that we don't read about too much in the news feed, which probably frustrates you somewhat. But can you just set the scene for that?
Yeah, sure. So, OpenAI and other companies have made it very obvious and clear that, there is a huge amount to be gained by scaling these AI architectures to huge data sets. And that's given us these large language models that we're now seeing proliferating everywhere. And so there's a huge opportunity from this sort of just add scale type methodology. And that's a big win for a lot of AI systems, and other companies such as, Google DeepMind and others are now catching up on that. However, we're already reaching the sort of end of available data sources for training these models. We've already used the entire internet, and companies and organizations are now rushing to sort of sign partnerships to train on their data sets for these specific methods. Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, has already said that, a newer breakthrough will be required for GPT-5 rather than just training bigger and bigger models. Now, Speechmatics is in the speech and the audio world, where this challenge has always been present, this challenge of having smaller data sets. It costs a lot more to label an audio data set than it does to label text or images. You need to have this human sit down and transcribe every word. And if you've ever tried to do that off a YouTube video yourself, you'll know how sort of long and time consuming that can be. And so it's meant that Speechmatics has had to be much more what's called sample efficient with its data. And that means making the most out of a smaller amount of data. And so a lot of other companies in the field have been training multilingual, so lots of languages in a single model. But there's no such thing as a free lunch in machine learning. So what they end up doing is trading sort of breadth of languages for accuracy. At Speechmatics, we've always cared about the accuracy of our system. And so we've instead developed this methodology that enables us to get very high accuracy on much smaller amounts of data. And this means that, for languages such as English, we get very high accuracy, but also for languages with much less training data, we're still able to achieve much higher accuracy on those. And then it also means that for, people with accents or dialects or speech impediments or localization or those types of things, we're still able to achieve very high accuracies for those individuals of less well-represented groups because we're more efficient on this, data problem.
So I'm curious, how does focusing on smaller, more efficient data sets, how does that impact the quality of learning and outcomes in AI, particularly in speech technology?
Yeah, so it actually helps in a wide number of ways. So, we achieve this like higher accuracy, what's called transcription, which is the moving of speech into text, because we're more effectively able to train the model on the data that's available. So if you have two systems and one's more effective on smaller amount of data, then it's going to be better accuracy on a same sample set as something else that isn't. But it also means that we're able to understand, less well-represented groups in that data set. So if there's somebody, with an accent or a dialect or a localization, or, we have an example on our website of a person that's deaf and they speak in a very different way. And we're still able to recognize and transcribe their voice in a very accurate way where other systems are not able to handle it as well. It also means we can train on any new languages with just a handful of labeled data. We've recently released Hebrew and Persian, where it's only taken an order of weeks to get from we don't have a system there to a few hours of training data to now a highly accurate system that's being used by customers. But ultimately, it also enables us to learn deeper and better representations from the audio that we have available. And a core pillar of what we try and do here at Speechmatics is to understand every voice. And we really want to understand every voice. And so being efficient on smaller data sets means that we can be much more inclusive and hopefully, more easily usable by underrepresented groups in society.
And I've also read that you mentioned the advantages of models that can learn at high abstraction too. So can you elaborate on how that approach benefits the development of speech technology and indeed its applications too? Yeah,
sure. So the very first challenge in speech technology is to recognize the single word that's been spoken.
Yeah.
Right? And a word takes around 300 milliseconds to say on average. And this means that any sort of word-based model needs what's called a context window of around 300 milliseconds to sort of be able to recognize those words. But a word on its own doesn't provide much context. Imagine if I said Green Park in a sentence. Do I mean the underground station in London, or do I just mean a park with a lot of greenery? The way we infer those types of semantics as people is we try and understand the broader context of what's being said in the sentence or the conversation or the person we're talking to. And this is what we mean by learning through sort of larger context windows. at a higher level of abstraction. And so if we're able to train AI systems that understand at this higher level of abstraction, we're also able to train them to sort of understand more context, more personalization, more about the environment and the individuals involved. And that should lead to sort of much more accurate, but also much more useful AI systems.
And in the context of speech technology, how significant is the development of a theory of mind, and what are the implications for AI's ability to understand human speech, and most importantly, the intent that you mentioned there?
Yeah, so I mentioned there it's really useful to understand the individuals involved. And so theory of mind is all about understanding that, you've got your own world model of how life is and how you interact with the world. And that might be different to my view and model of how the world interacts. So, for our AI systems of the future and AI assistants of the future, then they need to understand that they can build those different world models for the different person that's using the system. And so it's really important that, these systems are able to understand the broader context, are able to sort of learn from our history of interaction, and able to sort of understand us as individuals rather than as collectives. A lot of these large language models that have been trained have just been trained on the entire internet and everybody's thoughts, right? And so they really don't have a good understanding of the personalization. And so we need to build that back in. And so, to make this jump from brittle, inaccurate, sometimes frustrating products like Alexa or Siri or the Google Assistant, we need a few key things. And I think, that's a seamless interaction, one that feels like you're talking to a human. We need reliable interactions and returning the information we need. But we also need this personalization, this theory of mind that enables these systems to learn about the users the same way that humans do, understand the content, the intent, the preferences. And, that will all be critical if it's going to understand sarcasm in the future, for example.
Yeah, and I think that frustration with voice tech was illustrated perfectly. I think it's the new season of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Larry David completely losing it with Siri. I urge anyone to check that out that hasn't seen it. But another huge topic right now is increasing minority representation in speech. Crucial for all the right reasons. And how does Speechmatics' approach contribute to that goal? And what are some of the challenges that you may have come across in achieving that goal too?
Yeah, so very related to your comment about Curb Your Enthusiasm. There's this amazing comedy clip, right, of like two Glaswegians in a lift trying to get the voice recognition system to work, and it's hilarious, and lots of confusion ensues. The system cannot understand what they're saying. And while this is fun, like, it's actually, a serious issue if you don't speak very clear, easily understandable English on a, standard accent, that these systems can be extremely infuriating to use. And our voice is actually, our most common interaction methodology between people. And it should be the same with technology, right? If we're able to seamlessly interact with this technology through our voice, we wouldn't need to learn how to use a keyboard and a mouse and all these different UIs and touch screens and all that. We'd just be able to interact with it with our voice. But if we don't include inclusivity and accessibility as a key design principle in how we develop these systems, so many people will just be left behind. And so Speechmatics, that's a core part that drives our sample efficiency, this sort of fallacy of scale problem, because it allows us to learn from these smaller data sets. It allows us to sort of understand languages which aren't spoken by that many people, people with specific accents, people with different localizations. And hopefully it means that our speech technology is much more inclusive, much more accessible, and helps bring everyone along for the ride. And so I think that's, the clear issue with the fallacy of scale is the scale isn't all you need to make sure that technology is accessible to everyone in society.
And more recently, I've been to so many tech conferences where every business has almost jumped on the bandwagon talking about large language models or LLMs. It's all we're seeing on our news feeds as well. But I'm curious, what do you see as their limitations, and how do you at Speechmatics maybe envision the next phase of AI's evolution when we go beyond these models? I appreciate it's a big ask because looking into the future now, it seems to move so quickly, it's almost impossible to do. But how do you see this evolving?
Yeah, the AI field is advancing so incredibly quickly. But with every new technology, there's always limitations. And a clear and obvious limitation of large language models at the moment is their hallucinations. This is when they make things up, but they also sound overly confident about what they've made up. And this makes them less accurate, less reliable. And so a really big question in the AI field at the moment is whether this limitation can actually be overcome with the current architectures of large language models, or whether the problem is just inherent in the methodology that's being used. And so there's a lot of people researching into, do we just need to wait for a new breakthrough in a completely different way that does large language models differently, or is there some subtle changes to the existing architecture that can be done? But there are people doing some really interesting things as well alongside that. So one of the researchers at Speechmatics has been collaborating with a few other parties, and they've been looking at how do you make these two large language models debate with each other, and how does that sort of help improve inaccuracies or reliability. And so there are lots of people exploring as to ways to overcome some of these types of hallucinations and limitations. Another clear limitation that matters a lot to Speechmatics is that most of these large language models leverage mostly just text, right? And text is, by far the largest data source being used today. Some projects like Gemini from Google DeepMind are moving towards what's being called large multimodal models, or LMMs, which are using text, audio, images, and video. And so here at Speechmatics, what we want to make sure is, it's the same with every technology, garbage in, garbage out. So we want to make sure that the data going into these new LLMs or LMMs, that's going to be a tongue twister in the future, is really ensuring that it's the highest accuracy understanding of the data that's going in. And we care deeply about how, you don't just provide the text in, but you're also providing the raw audio. Can you understand more of the context, more of the emotion, more of the intent, more of the environment from the raw audio that are going into these systems? So I think that's a really exciting place for further innovation to happen in the speech domain, and it's happening here at Speechmatics.
It really is. And assuming once we're at that place where models can accurately understand and interpret human intent, just to bring to life what you're talking about here, what kind of applications or potential applications do you see leveraging speech technology in the future? Any use cases or ideas that you can share with everyone just to help them see what might be on the horizon?
At this stage, I like to let my inner geek out and start talking about, science fiction, and that's a great guide for the future. So, you got C-3PO in Star Wars that's able to translate between 6 million different languages. We don't have 6 million languages that we need to translate between. We have a few thousand, but clearly the ability to communicate instantly and through different languages would be a huge breakthrough. We also have Jarvis from Iron Man being able to sort of, take your voice actions and go off and action any type of thing that needs to be done in a sort of command and control way. But I think what guides us here at Speechmatics is a movie called Her, which has an AI called Samantha in it. And the reason that guides us is the conversation with Samantha is so seamless, so human. Like, she interrupts, she pauses, she sighs, she's really empathetic in the way that you have that interaction, so much so that Joaquin Phoenix, sometimes forgets that she's a bot rather than another human. And I think, we kind of passed a version of the Turing test for how we interact with chat-based systems through text, because we're happy to wait for somebody to message back via a keyboard. We know that takes time. We're nowhere near being able to pass the Turing test for talking to an AI system, and that's because you don't get this seamlessness of interaction. You don't get this interruptions. You don't get this non-word based cues such as sighing or pauses or tutting or things like this. And so we're really guided by Her, the movie, as like a North Star, where we think that where we need to get to is this sense that these systems are just really easy, really quick to interact with, so that the technology can get out of our way, move into the background, so that we can continue being human, being people, interacting with other people, and really move the technology into the background.
Wow, now you've got me excited with the Samantha thing and the Jarvis thing, man. So if we look into the future even further, any key developments you foresee in the next generation of intelligent machines and the role that Speechmatics could possibly play in that future as well?
Yeah, well, so AI and technology, humans are inherently bad at thinking about things in exponential ways, right? So we always think linearly. And so we're always surprised by the rate of progress over 10 years and disappointed by it over a year, right? So I do think that, as you were saying earlier, large language models have taken the world by storm, and AI progress is phenomenal. And so, we are going to be shocked by what we see in the next 2 to 3 years in terms of the capabilities that these systems are going to show. And so, I think Speechmatics is really a company that's focused on this speech-first intelligence. Everyone else out there is focused on how do we build these large language models to be bigger, to be better, to have more capabilities. At Speechmatics, we really care about how do you use speech to interact with these systems? How do you use speech to make this interaction as seamless as possible? I like thinking about the classic toothbrush test, which is, will somebody use this system every single day, and will billions of people use it every single day? And I think with, the hope was with Siri and Alexa and Google Assistant that would happen. But what you found is that the voice interaction was so brittle and so frustrating that people didn't. And so what I hope Speechmatics will be able to achieve is to make that so seamless that billions of people will use voice-based AI systems going forward, and it'll pass that toothbrush test for technology.
Wow, so much food for thought there. And we started the podcast talking about your origin story from an early DeepMind employee over a decade experience in machine learning and AI. But now it's time to have a bit of fun with you. I'm going to ask you to share something or one other thing in addition to your insights today. And that is to leave everyone listening with either a book that means something to you, inspired you, or that we can add to our Amazon wish list that you'd like people to check out, or a song for our Spotify playlist. Guilty pleasures are allowed, but all I'll ask is, what would you like to leave everyone listening with and why?
I'll try not to add too many Swifty songs to your playlist, and I'll go for the book option. So there's an amazing book written by one of the co-founders of DeepMind and now the co-founder and CEO of Inflection, a guy called Mustafa Suleyman. He's a British entrepreneur that was the individual that hired me into DeepMind, and I worked directly with for a good number of years. The book's called The Coming Wave, and it's really focused on that visionary sort of rally cry towards what a future with AI is going to look like, especially the sort of cultural, societal, political ramifications of this new technology, and tries to bring the technology to life in a way that a broader audience can understand the sort of implications of how this technology is going to roll out. And I think the person who, Mustafa was an incredible person to work for. I learned a huge amount from him in terms of how do you understand the problems we're trying to solve rather than just pushing the new technology out, thinking about why we develop these technologies. But he was also always thinking about what the ramifications of this new technology is. We just need more and more people to be thinking about and exploring what are the implications on society, political systems, nation states, etc., of this new AI era that we're about to enter.
Wow. Not only will I add that to the Amazon wishlist, I'll be checking that out myself. So I urge everyone to check that out at the end of the show. But for anyone listening, just wanting to find out more information about Speechmatics, explore some of the topics we talked about today, even contact you or your team, where would you like to point everyone listening?
Yeah, please do go check out speechmatics.com. You'll be able to read more about us, but there's also the ability to try us on what we call our portal, which is a place where you can try us for free. You can put in any audio, or you can use your microphone, or you can put in your favorite YouTube video, and you can just see how accurate our system is. You can translate it to hundreds of different languages. And so, yeah, please do come and try us. And if you can't find that, then, you can add me, Trevor Back, on LinkedIn or on X.
Awesome. Well, I'll get those links added to the show notes so people can find you nice and easily. We've talked about so much there. Big takeaways for me is why we need to stop focusing on large data sets that provide weak learnings and start prioritizing efficiency, and also why LLMs are really just the beginning and the applications for speech technology once models can begin to understand intent. Wow, that's when things get exciting. Just a big thank you, though, for taking the time to share your story and shine a light on this side of AI. Really appreciate your time today.
Thanks very much, Neil. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Wow, what a journey we've embarked on together today, from unravelling the complexities behind AI's reliance on large data sets and that promising horizon of speech technology that truly understands us. And Trevor really illuminated the path forward for me today, where efficiency, context, and inclusivity, where they all lead the charge towards creating AI systems that don't just hear us, but listen, comprehend, understand us. And as we look forward to a future where technology seamlessly integrates into the very fabric of our daily lives, like Samantha in the movie Her, I think it's clear that the innovations at Speechmatics are poised to play a pivotal role in helping shape that new reality. And to everyone listening, I want to leave you with this thought. In a world where technology's potential is boundless, how can we ensure that it evolves, but in a way that understands everything that we say? Please, I want you to share your thoughts with me on this. I know it's something you've all got an opinion on. Join the conversation. We'll continue to explore the intersection of technology and humanity in a conversation outside of this podcast. Email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, send voicemails, or DM me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes. I'm nice and easy to find there. And equally, if you've got any questions or you just want to come on the podcast, again, send me a quick message. And one final favour, don't forget to check out our Spotify playlist where the guests leave a song, and the Tech Talks Daily Amazon wish list for Trevor's recommendation and a Trevor trove of inspiration from previous guests as well. If you go to my website, techblogwriter.co.uk, go to podcast, open any episode, and you'll see links to both of those on the right-hand side. But that's it for today. So until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of what is possible with technology, and meet me here, same time, same place tomorrow. I'll see you then.